flaming Sambuca milkshake,
Yeah, flaming.
ready
He
and
has to be a
waiting
flaming.
for him when he arrives, because he's a cartoon character. Uh, but if you were to remove Dice from the film, this would be a very different picture. I feel like there's a lot of his personality in the character. If you were to replace him with, when I was watching it, I was thinking like, I reckon Val Kilmer could have done this. If you made this a Val Kilmer film, very
Yeah.
different film.
Oh yes, or like even maybe Kurt Russell or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And,
100%.
and Mel Gibson, I don't know. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
anybody at the time who could have been a huge star, but instead you chose, you know, at the time, you know, probably still now, a little controversial stand-up comedian, but also had such a specific like style and humor and everything. This is like if you were think of another comedian, like if you put Eddie Murphy in this,
yeah.
or if you put anybody who was huge at the time, like stand-up comedy wise, you know, George Carlin.
Yeah,
Cranky,
I'd see
cantankerous
it.
old George Carlin.
I would 100% watch that film. I want to see the George Carlin musical number halfway through.
Oh, yes, what I. I'm Mr. Conductor. I know what I'm talking about here.
Because yes, listeners, there is a music video act break in the middle of the film where Andrew Dice Clay sings a song.
Yeah, he shows Kyle Troy what rock and roll's all about, and then it's like more not doo-wop, but it's like I guess this is rock and roll. This is rock and
It's
roll.
like
Him, I
rock and roll
guess.
with blues in it, and
Yes,
there's.
it's got that good guitar riff. Do 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 do
I
do.
mean,
Every once in
I
a
liked the
while,
song.
I'll do that. You know,
He's
it's a catchy song.
Dice is he can sing. I don't know if he's done any music in his time, but he could have done.
Yeah.
He has a discography. Yes, he has. He has a. Well, actually, he's got a discography on Wikipedia, but that could all be stand-up.
It could all be
materials.
comedy albums
Yeah.
or stand-up
So, I
albums.
don't know.
Yeah.
My God, he was in an episode of MASH. What the hell? Because this whole podcast is just going through Dice's Wikipedia page,
Yeah.
which we're not going to do. So, what do you think of his performance in here as Ford Fairlane as the lead?
I think it's. Yeah, I think it was just it's a movie tailor made for him. You know, even though he doesn't have any writing credits, but I'm sure the writers were probably like, well, here's our plot, you do the jokes. I'm sure I would say 95% of this film is likely him just either riffing off the cuff or ad-libbing or something like that as well too. I can't imagine the writers giving him like, oh, here's the notes for the day, here's the rundown. Here's what you're going to say to Ed O'Neill and everything, or here's what you're going to say to Morris Day or whoever it is, and just say, here's what the movie is. This is what you have to say to forward the plot. But anything else, like, and plus he has a lot of narration scenes and everything too, where it's basically just him narrating a joke about something.
There's different styles of narration, because some of it is voiceover, some of it is him talking to the camera but not looking at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just kind of narrating to himself as he goes about his day.
Yeah, he's like, well, I could be a fisherman. I should have been a fisherman. They fish, they wake up, they
Then
fish.
there's other bits where it's like, I guess you're wondering how I got into this kind of situation, where he's talking to us rather than like it's a very, there's lots of different kind of tones to his performance. But I did, not being familiar with him as a comedian, I just went into thinking of him as an actor, and he played the character on screen well. There's a bit where he has a fight with Robert Englund on a boat, where he opens a mirror, he opens the cabinet, sees Robert Englund in there,
He closes it.
and he's like, oh, and he closes it, which A plus moment.
He's like, hello. He's like, ah.
But the look on his face when he closes the mirror, I thought was fantastic. That's a real great. I just thought it was a good acting moment for him.
Just everything is like this great comic timing and him like knowing how to do the scene like in his own way, but also not make it be so hokey. Because I feel like some comedians can, comedians who are stand-up comedians who like to do movies, they like to be just crazy goofball people that don't maybe play a character correct. But he's playing, a rock and roll detective, if you will, but he's playing a detective pretty well. He's looking for clues. He's, commenting on things that he's like, oh, I'm putting these things together. But everything about what he does, I think, works super well, and it's constantly entertaining because it is zinger and zinger and zinger. And it does help a lot more, I think. I guess for you, not really knowing like Dice, outside of like some of his supporting roles later on, you thought he did a great job, or you thought he did a good job playing the character at least, though.
Yeah, I think it's clear he's a performer. He has a good screen presence. He's like a captivating screen persona. So I'm surprised that he didn't do a lot of other acting.
Yeah.
But then this didn't do well.
Fairlane movies. I mean, yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things. You only got one shot, I think, back in the day, and I forgot what studio this was with. I don't know if it was with a bigger studio or smaller.
It's Fox.
Fox. Okay, so it was
production company is Silver Pictures, but it was released through Fox.
Yeah, because Joel Silver, another producer on this, massive producer of the 80s and 90s as well too. Yes. So this movie had like everything kind of going for it, and I guess the budget was maybe between 16-20 million, I guess, something like that. Pretty high.
Wikipedia says 20, and then it made 21.4 at the box office.
Okay, so just enough. I'm sure it made probably more after the fact on VHS, and I guess it would just be VHS, and there were no DVDs until late 90s. So
I'm not sure if this ever had a DVD release. It certainly didn't in this country.
Yeah, not that I remember. It might have had one here in the U.S., but I'm not sure, to be honest.
It's out there on Laserdisc somewhere.
Yes, hopefully.
So surrounding Ford Fairlane is a cavalcade of supporting cast. So the main villain is Wayne Newton, Julian Grendel, who I am most familiar with from License to Kill and nowhere else.
In National Lampoon.
He's in Vegas Vacation, but that's not a film I remember.
Okay, it's something that exists, and he basically Wayne Newton is playing Wayne Newton as opposed to Wayne Newton playing a character or something like that, though. So
right, but he's more of a musical act, as I understand it. He's a singer and a performer in Vegas.
Recruiter, Vegas act, basically. Yeah,
but I think he makes a great villain. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's incredible.
He's got the phosphorescent teeth. He looks like how you always envision like the devil looking like in a movie. It's like I'm the devil, but I'm really not the devil. He's undercover devil with the big smile, the mustache, like the kind of not quite John Waters mustache, but a little thicker than that, and then the big coiffed bouffant kind of looking hair. He looks like a doo-wop villain, basically, or like a greaser villain or something like that.
I love that, a doo-wop villain.
Fantastic. A doo-wop villain.
So yeah, I thought his performance was fantastic. He's like truly villainous. As soon as I saw him, I thought, well, this guy must be the bad guy because he's one of the bad guys in the Bond film. I just assume if you're a villain in a Bond film, you're a villain everywhere else. That's why every character Sean Bean has played is a villainous.
Yeah,
Boromir is a villain. So he does a great job here. Then we have Ford's assistant, kind of secretary, is Jazz, played by Lauren Holly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was great as well. Not enough time on screen for her either. She's very much the put-upon assistant who... The relationship she and Ford have is a little unclear in that they had a relationship in the past where he felt he was doing all of the work in the bedroom, so he made her clean the house.
Well, that's an ongoing joke in the film too. Like the earliest thing of that was the two twins that he takes home after the big party, and he wakes up to Jimi Hendrix, and the first thing you hear him say is "Do my dishes." It's things like that, I guess, rub people the wrong way a lot, even though it's just him. It's him playing a character. Yeah. And then of course always referring to Stanley, his power tool, and everything too. So.
And there is a scene where he says the other F word, the kind of homophobic slang.
Oh yeah, you can't. You can't really say. There's a lot of things in this film that you would have to rework the script a little bit. Well, maybe not the script, at least the dialogue, if you will.
And he uses the phrase trans testicle.
Trans testicle. Yeah, he uses that as well too. So.
Yeah. So things not everything holds up.
Not everything holds up. It's I mean the dialogue. But if you go back to a lot of films, I think you can go back and like, yep, this dialogue is not working anymore. We have to change this and this out, and it would work better. But it's again 32 years young, if you will, this film. So it's And
maybe the most disgusting scene of the film is when, actually, a great scene that I liked was because for a lot of the film, Ford Fairlane, he's like in his element. He's going to clubs. Everyone knows him. Everyone's like impressed that he. There's a character, Sam the sleazebag, played by David Patrick Kelly, who's been harassing Josie and the Pussycat Dolls.
Yes.
Saying he wants to rape and kill them, not in that order.
Yes.
Delightful character. Ford sees to him in a club, and like immediately after that, these two women just appear either side of him, and they're the ones that he wakes up with the next day in bed. So he just everywhere he goes, everyone loves him. Everything's great. Everything's fantastic.
Yes. Clint Eastwood.
Yes.
I effed him. Oh, and then you get one classic kind of like thing like that. So
yeah,
of course from the comedy acts. So.
But then there's not enough of Ford not in his element. Like he has to go to a high society party where nobody knows him, and I thought I wanted more of that, because his assistant Jazz shows up and he told her to dress nice, and she does dress nicely. How Ford would describe it as nice, but not high society nice.
But nice, but not nice.
Yeah, he tries some kind of vol au vent, or horse doves, I think he calls them.
Oh God!
And it's disgusting. So instead of spitting it out, he forcibly kisses Jazz and inserts it into her mouth against her will, and then she has to swallow it. Which made me gag a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little metaphoric, I guess, though, at the same time. So it's like considering that Dice Clay's a comedy act, it seems like, oh, this is part of the course. So.
Yeah, and like, in an earlier scene, he hasn't paid her. Like he gives her a watch that a band had paid him for.
Yes.
Josie Pussycats pay him a watch and a koala. No, In Excess pay him a koala.
Yeah, in excess of koala. Yeah, koala eats popcorn on the couch.
We will get back to the koala, because goddamn, there is a robot koala in this film.
Yes. I mean, it looked better than, like, Yoda from, like, Return of the Jedi. Had a little bit more kind of animatronic thing kind of going on.
Okay.
But you knew it was a fake koala.
Yes,
at least.
Of course. There is no doubt. But if you were to ask me to list off what animals to expect to see in The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, it'd be a long time before I got to koala.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It all makes sense, though. That's the thing about it. It's perfect.
Yeah, because it's from In Excess. But he re-gifts the watch to Jazz as that month's payment, and she's like, "What about last month?" And he kisses her as payment. But previously they've had a relationship.
Yes.
I feel like after that point, a kiss would no longer be seen as payment, or even ever.
Yeah, not really much of anything. Not even like an IOU or anything like that. No. So.
But he obviously in his own head at least has this hugely inflated opinion of himself and what value his abilities in the bedroom might have.
Yes.
Which is all exacerbated by the reaction he gets when he just pulls up to a club and the crowd parts and lets him through, and everyone's like fawning over him.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of like, this is going to be a real cringe-worthy film to get through. But then when he gives his number to one of the twins, he gives her a 555 number, and she says, "Well, this isn't real. This is from a movie." And he's like, "What do you think this is? This isn't real life."
Yes.
And at that point, I was in. Sold. The film knows.
Like and I love that, because it always reminds me of in Last Action Hero, they kind of do a similar thing with the 555 stuff.
Yep.
But this movie predates, I think, Last Action Hero by 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
So it was already self-aware, and it was self-aware before other movies were wanting to become more self-aware. And it works. The comedy works well, but I'm sure at the time, that whole thing in 1990 when they did that joke, I'm sure people were like, "What is that here?" Right? Like nobody would understand that at all. Or maybe they did. Maybe there were a few people like, "Aha, yeah, everybody uses 555 numbers," or them being self-aware about what's happening. So I'm glad this was like the proto use of that joke in other movies that came after it. So it's great. 555-6321.
Yeah, and so just at that point on, I was in. I was fully like, great. The film knows what it is. I'm on board.
Man, you were almost out in the beginning, huh? You were out in the opening credits. You're I don't know about this.
I mean, I make notes as I'm going through, and I had made a full A5 page of notes before I'd hit 10 minutes of screen time.
Oh my god. Ford sits on the beach. Oh no, this is going to be horrible.
It's more like, because again, you have to bear in mind, this is my first experience of Andrew Dice Clay in his persona. So all of this is like everything he does seems like some bizarre acting choice of what is going on here. Like what is he? What is his hair? What is he wearing?
Why is he?